There's actually a report from OpenAI that says that ChatGPT models could be anywhere from, I think, in the 30s to 80% wrong. So that's a really high percentage, right? If you think about it, meaning that it can hallucinate that much. However, that only applies when you are using it as a question and answer machine. So, what I mean by that is if you want absolutely exacting answers, like you're playing Jeopardy, right? Like who is or when did, those kinds of things. And the large language models are not really optimized to do that. They're not designed to be question and answer machines. They're designed to be thought partners of us. So more nuanced situations are much better with these large language models. So if you're seeing a lot of hallucinations or wrong answers, I would contend my hypothesis is you're probably using it as a question and answer machine. However, if you're using it, in the way that it's supposed to be used as a thought partner, you have a specific hypotheses that you want to test, right? You have a process that you want ChatGPT to evaluate, give you the pros and cons of it. If you wanted to give you what if scenario planning situations, those types of things. When it's nuanced and it's language oriented, then it becomes more accurate, if you want to call it that, more helpful rather than when you want to play Jeopardy, right? It is also a large language model, not a computational model. So, what's interesting about this, because it's so counterintuitive, is it's not very good with math because it's not a computational model. It's a language model. So it's much better with language. However, that gap is starting to close because AI continues to advance. And in fact, some of the more recent models, the reasoning models, and some of the like $200 a month subscription levels of ChatGPT are designed for very large data sets and very complex computations. So, when we see AI deviating from our expectation, just ask ourselves the questions first. What are we asking it to do? Are we asking it to do things that it's designed to do? Are we asking it things that maybe it's just a limitation today, but over time, this thing will get better? As they say, the AI that we use today is the dumbest form of AI that we'll ever see moving forward. So, while those things like hallucinations are still relatively high, I do believe that it will get better over time.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, and I think it's the other thing that we really need to be aware of is when you're using AI softwares, these kind of, I'm going to call them question and answer bots, but that's not really that because I think the key word there is prompts, and it's how you prompt the AI you get the best response. So, Dave, I think you said it earlier, and I really like the way you said this is, argue with me about this piece. The question of what am I missing is also, I think, a very effective prompt after you've gotten some ideas out. So, I mean, kind of focusing in on prompts, what kind of prompts have we found to be the most effective in our uses of AI? I can go first. When I write and I use it kind of as my first line editor of a lot of my public facing content, I'm a very wordy person when I write. And so instead of having Dave or other Monument member teams make it more concise, one of my favorite prompts is help me make this piece more concise while also preserving its original tone and meaning. So I don't know, are there other prompts, and Lisa, Dave, that you guys have found that have really helped you narrow in and avoid those hallucinations that we were just talking about?
Yeah, I have a framework that I've used for quite some time now, but it will evolve over time as AI gets better, right? So the framework is GRACE. G stands for goals. You need to give it a set of goals. R stands for role. It needs to understand what role you want it to have. Are you a mom blogger or are you a, field marketer? Whatever. Are you a CEO, right? So we need to give it a role. A is for actions. What do we want it to do? C is for context. It's been trained on 85% of the internet. But for our particular situation, we need to give it context on what we want it to do and what the situation is. And then E, I think it helps a lot when we give it examples, to the extent that we have those examples. So here's my sample newsletter. Here's my sample presentation that I shared with my leadership team. Then it gets an idea of what good looks like.